the narrative has always been in the media, his unpredictability is a strength. Because if you can't predict an opponent, you're going to be more wary of them because you don't know what they're going to do. On a geopolitical level, is that actually true, or is he just a massive liability?
Yeah, and I would argue the opposite is true about Trump. He is actually very predictable. It's just you have to ask yourself a different question. Don't ask yourself what's good for America, ask yourself what's good for Trump. If you ask yourself what benefits Trump in any given scenario, you'll be closer to the right answer than if you ask yourself, well, what's in America's best interest? Because Trump's best interests are consistently the ones that win out. How does he save face? How does he look strong? How does he win his base over? Whatever it might be, right? How does he gain leverage? How does he make the other side look bad? How does he come up with the best tweets? Whatever it might be, you can get closer to the truth if you understand that Trump is predictable in thinking what's best for Trump. And I understand that the majority of Americans voted for Trump and that he was a duly elected president, and that is the position that he sits in, and I want to respect the office of the president. It's a place to be. It's a hard job. But Trump was running to become president when he knew it was only a 4-year term. He was running to become president when he knew that there were presidential benefits and perks that were going to come that would counteract his legal issues. He was running for president at a time when the country was largely dissatisfied with the previous president. So there were certain benefits and certain opportunities that he had. Who did they benefit? Him. It doesn't benefit the American people to have a one-term president. It benefits the American people to have a president that has the opportunity to run for multiple terms, to make 8 years worth of impact, not 4 years worth of impact. So you can see in multiple different ways the rise of what I'm calling, well, I'm not really calling it, other people have called it this, but I can see the rise of the celebrity president, right? Barack Obama was a celebrity and a president. Luckily, he still had some statesmanship in him, right? Then we had Trump come up, pure celebrity, no chops at all for politics. And then we had Biden kind of come back as a weird sort of rebound boyfriend, kind of still riding Obama's celebrity. And now Trump's back again. Like,
it's Oprah next.
Who is next? And are they going to be qualified to do what statesmen do? And statesmen consider the long-term impact, multi-generational benefit to their state.
Yeah, because you saw in Trump in that clip, which everybody's seen, when, viral isn't the word, talking about Iran and Israel and then going, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And then what was interesting is he went in harder on Israel than he did in Iran.
I think that was us seeing that he himself also knows his predictability is being read by true statesmen. Netanyahu is a statesman. Putin is a statesman, right? Xi Jinping is a statesman. These are people who understand and are invested in the long-term interest of their state. And they're also autocratic in many ways, and they're also authoritarian in some ways, more so with Putin and Xi than with Netanyahu. But these are individuals who understand there is an entire nation that can benefit or be harmed by the decisions that they make. So they can play this, and they have a circle of professionals around them who are informing their decisions. Trump doesn't have that. He doesn't have that vision, and he also doesn't have that team of people who are hell-bent on the mission of advancing our state. They might be, Marco Rubio is hell-bent on the vision of becoming a future president, right? Pete Hegseth is hell-bent on the idea of not f***ing up a second time, but they're not really focused on how do we make America the strongest country in the world for another 5 decades.
Do you think he's out of his depth?
I would say that he is in a position where he is not, I think he can do the job. But with the team that he has, he's made the job a whole hell of a lot harder.
It's interesting you say that, because we have met some of the people, not at the very top, but around, who are very professional, who are very patriotic, who are very dedicated. But then I've never met Steve Witkoff, but then I see him being appointed as America's chief negotiator, and then he comes out and the stuff he said about Ukraine, I'm going like, mate, you don't know what, you genuinely don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And it's kind of worrying. Do you think that's one of the reasons Trump hasn't yet delivered on Ukraine? That lack of professional advice and kind of having the right people in the right place, or is there other reasons?
Well, I also think that this is Putin outmaneuvering Trump.
That's what I think too.
And remember, like, Putin is an experienced KGB operator. He's an experienced strongman operator. He can read Trump. He can read the ego, and he can read the need for victory, and he can play that shell game. That's, I think, in large part a show of how unprepared Zelensky is compared to Putin for what to expect with Trump, right? Both Musk and Zelensky expected that Donald Trump would follow through on his promise. Why would you ever expect Donald Trump to follow through on a promise, right? Donald Trump has his entire career made promises to get people to fall in line to not follow through on the promise.
You know, it's such a good point because, you know, I'm much happier that Trump's president than the alternative that we had, genuinely. And like I say, there are some people around him that I really like and respect. We've had our friend Seb Gorka on the show, for example. That's what he is. He's a patriot. He wants America to be great, right? But I did meet someone in New York who used to do business with Donald Trump. And he said, I said, what was he like? And he's like, the only thing you need to know about him is if he owes you $1 million, he calls you the day he's due to pay. And he says, I've got 200,000 for you. Take it or leave it. So whatever you think about whether that's good or bad or right or wrong or whatever, that is who the man is. So your point is, it's interesting you, with your CIA background, basically going, stop thinking about like, this from a kind of feelings or morality, that's what he is.
Right.
Right. And you got to understand that. And there are smart people in the world who understand it. And there are less smart people in the world who don't understand it.
There's the people who act on rational probabilities.
Yeah.
And there's the people who operate on irrational hopes and beliefs.
Right.
And we live in an era right now where you've got to be doubling down on rational probabilities.
That's so interesting.
You can be wrong, and that's okay.
Yeah.
If you gamble enough times in the way that is rational and statistically impactful, you're gonna have more success than the person who's just constantly duped by believing what they read or believing what they hear or believing what they see.
Or believing what they want to believe.
Or even worse, believing what they want to believe in a vacuum, right?
Right. That's so interesting. And that was the thing with Steve Witkoff that really struck me, because I'm going, I know that the people who are sitting across the table from him, they're like Russian guys who've been studying this for 30 years. And they've been trained from the age of 18 to understand all these things. And you've got a guy who may be super talented, he may be great at everything, but he doesn't understand the subject matter well enough. And that's kind of worrying to me.
So at CIA, we would often participate in giving briefings to like staffers, Senate staffers and congressional staffers. And we would brief them on something.
CIA believes that all people are born with a spy secret superpower. For some people, that means they can win deals. For others, they can spot liars. Some can even seduce lovers. I built a free 3-minute test to help reveal to you exactly what your secret hidden superpower is. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, take the test, and start using your spy superpower to stay ahead of 99% of people.
And I don't know if you know what a staffer looks like in Washington, D.C.
They're about 25 years old.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
they're all
It's
dressed
scary.
to impress the opposite sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very smart,
Very
Yeah.
smart.
but
And
they're
that's-
25 years old.
And it takes an army of them to brief one congressperson. So we, CIA, brief the staffer, the team of staffers. They all take their separate notes, and then they compile those notes to give a boiled down briefing to their representative. And then that representative takes that series of notes to their subcommittee, and it goes on and on. So whatever we give has been watered down 5 times before it actually gets to a policymaker. And that's how the process worked when it was still like a policy of professional statesmen that earned their position through a voting process by an informed public. Now what we have is a celebrity effort where celebrity wins you more power than actual informed performance. And then in addition to that, you surround yourself by people who have no experience in the facility of the secretary office that they're in, and then they're shaping the information they get, right? Like it completely turns the whole thing upside down. And that's assuming CIA is still briefing staffers and the staffers are still being selected based off of their qualifications and the whole process is still working. If CIA itself is gutted, or if CIA itself no longer feels the need to even try, it feels like they're wasting their time, those meetings right now might just look like donuts and coffee and flirting across the table.